Which weapon combinations work best against bugs and bots? Which weapons now feel more viable with the recent peak physique fix? Do you ever actually consider which primary and support weapons pair well? I set out to explore these questions, and I've noticed that there does seem to be quite a lot of people around who just throw any old weapon combination together, and that's totally fine if that's how you want to enjoy the game. I even do it from time to time, but this got me thinking, what are some of the best and most well-rounded primary and support weapon combinations? So here are 7+ primary and support weapon combos which I've been using recently, and as always, these are just my opinion, and there's loads more, so please do sound off in the comments below with your favorite synergistic combos. Now, with that being said, let's get into it. First up, let's look at the Automatons and start off with what is possibly my favorite combination against bots: the Scorcher, HMG, and Grenade Pistol, with the recent peak physique fix now ensuring that the perk improves the handling on weapons with less drag on weapon movement, combined with the recent buffs to the MG-206 HMG, which includes an increase in projectile damage from 100 to 150, increased projectile damage to durable body parts up from 23% to 33%, a decreased reload time, and increased stagger strength, and more autonomy over the various fire rates, which I recommend keeping at a lower RPM to ensure more control. It delights me to say that this thing is an absolute monster to use. It's so much easier to control in terms of its handling, and this can be further emphasized if you lie down before firing. It's acquired a third-person reticle, and the red dot is so much easier to see when we're ADSing, though I wouldn't recommend that. I'd recommend third person just because it just feels better, folks. It's much snappier to acquire targets as a result, and it can carve through automaton enemies incredibly quick with its AP4 attribute. It can smash through a Scout Strider front plate in around 7 shots and 2 to 3 on its axle region, which is quite impressive. However, I would actually say that if you see a large group of Striders, you are much better placed using a Grenade Pistol for this job, which is why I choose to bring this with this particular pairing. Moving on to Devastators, this is incredibly good news. Devastators can be one-shotted with a headshot and can be taken down in, I think it's around 3 to 4 shots based on whether you're hitting limbs or the chest area. Hordes of Berserkers melt against this thing, and whilst I haven't tested it precisely, I believe it can be dropped in around 7 to 8 shots to any body part and cleaned out completely with 2 headshots. It also deals with gunships with some well-placed shots to the thrusters, which I believe is around the 10 to 11 shot mark. The challenge here is actually landing the shots. Hulks and tanks and mortars and anything with a back vent can be dealt with very swiftly if you can get round the back with a high RPM setting and dump as many bullets in there as possible, but the real finesse comes with trying to shoot Hulks in their eye. I believe it takes 4 shots. This can be a little bit inconsistent, not because of the damage it takes, just because it is so annoyingly difficult to land it at times right in that eyeball. So make sure that you are prepared for that, folks. I would actually say perhaps using stratagems is probably a better choice here, but there you go. Couple this with the Scorcher, and no introduction is needed for this weapon. It'll come as no surprise. It's included in this combo list with 200 damage per shot, explosive damage. It's so complementary to the MG-206 and can do serious work against all bot infantry, providing excellent mop-up or primary initiation technique against packs. We do a lot of loadout and weapon testing live on stream, and a lot of the footage that you're seeing is captured there. With that in mind, if you could drop the video a like and also drop the channel a subscribe, it will make sure that you're notified when I do go live. It also feeds the algorithm, and it really helps me out. Thank you. The Tenderizer, combined with the autocannon, is another superb combination when considering the recent buffs to the Tenderizer, which now does a whopping 95 damage per hit with increased stagger strength, and despite its light armor penetration, the fire rate and immaculate handling more than makes up for the lack of penetration there. It makes incredibly short work of most automaton infantry with ease, and if you're accurate with your headshots, you can beam down Devastators fairly quickly. Scrapping that, you can go for leg shots for a more aim-friendly approach if you're looking to take these down with a Tenderizer. And with that being said, accompanying this with the autocannon really means that we should probably really be focusing the AC to deal with Devastator packs, and much like the AMR setup that's coming up shortly, it can rip through Devastators, especially if you just spam into groups and ensure your hits land. It makes short work of gunships if you hit the engine, and the same can be said if you're hitting the right spots on Hulks, tanks, fabs, mortars and such like. Pairing this setup with another autocannon turret and or a rocket sentry allows you to literally delete any scary automaton column, provided you've positioned everything in a way that lets you get your shots off first. You can switch to the Scorcher instead of the Tenderizer in this loadout as well, if you want to make it a more desirable setup for yourself, the reasons outlined previously. But I will say, folks, the star of the show here really is the Tenderizer. I'm just so happy we can use weapons like the Tenderizer now in a bot loadout, because for a while it's not been that way. Try the Tenderizer on bots if you haven't already, folks. Absolute weapon of destruction. The antimatter rifle, or AMR as it is affectionately known, is our main focus in this loadout. It can dispose of any automaton unit highly effectively if you know where you need to aim. Striders need a well-placed shot to the leg joint to send them crashing to the ground. Don't bother wasting your time aiming at the front panel or trying to shoot the top of the bot's head. The AMR is ineffective in this. If you are good at hitting the leg joint, you can easily take out groups of these swiftly. This is all well and good, but where this weapon truly shines is when handling the more scary opposition in the automaton arsenal. Equip this weapon and you become an instant nemesis to Hulks, and your team will love you for it. 2 shots to the red eye slot and this weapon will destroy a Hulk. Now, that is easier said than done, especially depending on which angle you're firing from at the eye or how quickly the Hulk is traveling. So if the Hulk is running, you'll have a much harder time as the eye moves around a lot. So to alleviate this issue, there are a number of choices here. Using stun grenades when the Hulk is close enough is a great way to line up some simple, easy shots. This is, of course, not always possible, so instead you can also shoot the Hulk's legs. It takes around 5 or 6 shots with the AMR, and this heavily reduces its mobility and not only makes matters easier for you when you're shooting at the Hulk, it also takes that fear factor away from your teammates as well. You can also use this same approach with the Hulk weapon if you want to remove that ridiculously scary and annoying flamethrower out of the equation when fighting them. I personally just shoot at the eye and have spent a lot of time practicing getting better at this, and I think it is probably the most efficient approach to handle Hulks overall. The AMR also makes incredibly short work of all 3 types of Devastator. If you can land 2 well-placed shots on the weak spot, so the head and the backpack on the machine gun wielding ones, this makes absolute mincemeat of them. This weapon is an S-tier choice in automaton missions, don't get it mistaken. The rate of fire and the frequency in which you can deal with Devastators makes you invaluable to your team, an absolute savior, if you will. Gunships can be dealt with in 5 to 6 shots on the engine, and whilst there are better weapons out there to handle them more efficiently, I'm looking at you, Las Cannon, I do feel that having the ability to deal with them from very far away is a humongous bonus that you should not sleep on, especially when there are a few of them on the battlefield. In terms of weak spots on mortars, anti-air, cannons, tanks, the AMR can take care of them in around 5 to 7 hits, making this weapon again absolutely fantastic. Perhaps one of the most exciting things about this weapon is that it can take on the newest addition to the bot army, the Factory Strider. And folks, this does serious work against this enemy, let me tell you. Provided you can get close enough to see its undercarriage, you can take these down surprisingly quickly. First up, 2 well-placed shots on each of the front Gatling turrets will be enough to take those down, and this tends to be the main threat when pushing them. Followed up by stun locking any Devastators it has dropped with our grenade of choice, which is of course the stun grenade, which will allow us in part to get close enough with the AMR to completely empty the magazine into it. The footage that you're watching now is me bringing down a Factory Strider after it's already taken a bit of damage. However, with that being said, I put around a mag and a half into one the other day and then followed that up with an airstrike before jetpacking away. Very cool. And this brought one down from full health. You could also try and shoot the eye at the front, but this really is not as efficient as this technique that I've just explained. Next up, the sickle. And this is the ultimate pairing to go with the AMR in my opinion. This is absolutely game-changing when paired with the AMR for a number of reasons. The sickle excels at ripping through lighter enemies and can even contribute to dealing with Devastators and weak spots on the back of Hulks. Because it's a heat-based weapon, you can play the sickle without spending a single reload if you manage this mechanic efficiently. Makes a very fluid play style in which you can swap between the AMR and the sickle based on what you have in front of you. Just rip through a group of striders and devastators with the rifle, and now you're scratching your head because you're out of ammo and need to clear a group of regular bots? Absolutely no problem. Just switch to the sickle and watch them fold. Switch back, reload the rifle, rinse, repeat this pattern. This weapon performs incredibly well in those situations that require you to push outposts with a lot of lighter enemies in there. Pick off the heavies and then push in using the sickle and the jetpack. Complement this further by using the revolver, which feels like it further extends the swashbuckling approach you can take with this build, and perhaps most importantly, it looks really cool when you whip out the pistol and nail a group without missing a shot. Looking for an infinite ammo build? Then this next pairing is a match made in heaven for you folks. The sickle combined with the las cannon will allow you to never require a reload if you get really good at managing the heat on both weapons. This is particularly quick to pick up and requires you to just learn how to switch between each systematically to keep the damage output and DPS flowing consistently. It actually feels a bit like an MMO in the sense it's like a rotation, just constantly keeping the damage output flowing. If you get really methodical and astute at this, you'll be gobsmacked at just how quickly this setup can deal with hordes of automatons. The real winning approach with this combination is getting good at recognizing which weapon is best suited for the enemy composition in front of you. If you're being faced with a lot of regular light bots, sweeping with the sickle is probably going to be more efficient in the first instance before switching across to your las cannon to deal with the heavies such as devastators and berserkers. A grenade pistol works really well in this loadout to remove striders from the fold. If there's loads of them, I definitely guarantee using this is a good choice. The las cannon can of course deal with hulks effectively if you get accurate with the eye shots, or getting the jump on the vents for both them and tanks also works. Now, if you're in a mission with heavy gunship patrol presence, you're going to have an absolute ball with this weapon. Focus the engines, get good at tracking them, and watch these things come crashing to the ground in abundance. Moving on to the Terminids and the Adjudicator. I'm saying this with a smile on my face. It's been newly buffed and it's an absolute monster against Terminids, dealing with most Terminid chaff with ease. It's particularly impressive against Brood Commanders with its medium armor pen, and Hunters, they just crumble with this thing. I would recommend that you run the Adjudicator when you're playing a build with a supply pack, because although its mag capacity has been increased, it still feels quite uneconomic in the ammo department. Running it with a supply pack alleviates this somewhat, and it's a great pairing actually with the railgun too, because it does serious work on those stripped charger legs. I would also say just be careful when you're aiming with this. If you're close, it's absolutely fine to just let rip, but if you're far away, short bursts are the most effective because it does kick like a mule a little bit. The blitzer, or the zap zap shotty as it's affectionately known as, is the main focus of this loadout. Equipping the blitzer makes you a worthy adversary for any bug breach, provided you hang out close enough to get the shots in early, but not so much that you get nuked by your stratagem call-ins. It can dispose of most light and medium Terminid units effectively, and provided you are prepared to put yourself into quite dangerous positions with confidence and conviction, this build is incredibly punchy and exciting to play. Hunters can be taken down in 1 to 2 shots, provided you are getting direct hits on the main centers of mass, and as with all of the chaff enemy types, they get knocked around a lot when taking hits, which is incredibly useful for keeping this lethal threat at bay. Brood Commanders are also easily bullied away from you and can be decapitated in around 2 to 3 blasts. Nursery Spewers are also very manageable with this weapon, provided that you keep moving and kiting the enemy. You can also flinch and stun lock them before they spit, which often comes in clutch, believe me, and this is also the case for our friend the Stalker, provided they don't get the jump on you first, which is easier said than done. Hive Guards, on the other hand, are a tough nut to crack, taking 4 and upwards hits to kill. They stop advancing though when they get hit, so my advice here would be mindful of them, give them the occasional tap on the head to remind them who's boss, and deal with the other mobs first before mopping them up last. By not ADSing the blitzer, it appears to widen the spread, encouraging it to connect with enemies in a wider arc as opposed to a more focused super small frontal cone. What it has revealed is that you can choose between focusing your shots in specific areas of a horde or becoming much more general in your cover of it. Where the Quasar cannon shines is its ease of use and access. You take a shot with it and then get on with your business for the next 18 seconds and it's there waiting for you ready and prepped. This is for me the most attractive aspect of it. Using the Quasar and the blitzer also means that you are running a fully energy-based setup and require no ammo aside from your sidearm, another humongous bonus. The plasma shotgun combined with the flamethrower is another awesome setup that provides us with excellent horde clear, the ability to completely delete charges, and provides us with infinite stagger potential when we lean into the plasma shotgun attribute. If you can crack the armor of a Bile Titan, you also open up the opportunity to kill a Bile Titan by landing some well-placed plasma shotgun shots. What primary and support weapon combinations do you like to run with and why? Sound off in the comments below. If you'd like to check out a more detailed breakdown of some of my more favourite current loadouts, including the stratagems in Helldivers 2, then check out this next video, it's got you covered. Take care of yourselves, keep having fun, and I'll see you in the next one.